Martin Himel, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Mr. Himel, tell me, how did you find these two most interesting people and their stories?
Well, I basically came up with the concept, the general idea of people who are directly affected by war and conflict and have a desperate need to move on with their lives after the conflict is over, set up new families, and to bury the past with secrets behind them. And then I started to look for people on social media through connections, etc. And we finally came up to a few people. There were other people as well, but it whittled down to these two. With Malka, basically through word of mouth, I was passing around in the Toronto area because I know there's a lot of Holocaust survivors that I'm looking for people with interesting secrets. And it just so happens I met her son, and her son referred me to her. And with Jürgen, we scoured a lot of social media in Germany, etc., and then his story popped up and we contacted him.
I'm always interested in how you convince people or how they decide to let you film these extremely emotional and highly personal moments and stories.
Well, I would like to think that I win over their trust, It's basically when you come with genuine, serious interest about what they have gone through or are going through or what they want to achieve, there's a receptiveness. If you're coming there saying, "Oh, it's a great story, I just want to get this and this and that," there won't be such a receptiveness. But if you take the time to really listen and pay attention and care about their story, if that's what you really feel, then they begin to open up to you, and then it's a trust-building thing. It doesn't come in one day. We spent weeks upon weeks over a long period of time with these people, and so it's a trust-building thing, and you've got to be very sensitive to what they go through, the ups and downs in their search for their loved ones, and be caring about it, and authentically be caring about it. So it's like any relationship. You build it with a lot of care and empathy, and then it just evolves.
As a filmmaker, Martin, how do you plan something like this, which is a voyage of detective work in which things can't be planned in a way?
Well, you sort of hit the nail on the head. There's only so much planning. Basically, what I'm looking for are people who do communicate and who are receptive to what we're trying to find out, and then we say, well, let's see what we can find. In Malka's case, for example, she's looking for a sister. I had no idea that I'm going to find anything or not find anything. And I say, we're going to go on this journey, and we'll document the journey and see where it goes. And then it goes where it goes. And with Jürgen, it's let's see what we can find more about this father and where it goes. And with Jürgen, for example, the issue there is he's looking for an American father he didn't know about, and then why his mother Gertrude does not give him some sort of resolution about why she kept the secret. And when we started this project, his mother, Gertrude, wanted absolutely nothing to do with us, and we respected that. But as Jürgen began to trust us, and Gertrude felt the need also to share, and so it's a lot of unanticipated. You don't know where it's going to go, but you feel that no matter where you're going to go, you're going to get something.
What was it like for you and the crew in these emotional stories? How do you get involved and not get involved?
Oh, you do get involved. I mean, you share their ups and downs. You share their hope and their disappointments, and the frustration when it doesn't lead somewhere. And maybe that's another reason why they begin to trust you so much. You share all that. But that's one of the reasons I make the films, because, I'm sharing something that I think is very special in this somewhat mini adventure of their lives. It's a great process of expression for me, and it does something for my soul as well, which is a lot of the reason why I do what I do.
It's amazing to think that this is a story of what we now call collateral damage.
Well, yes, I guess that's the point. You see, the previous generation that went through the war and experienced it 72 years ago, wanted to do everything possible to make sure that Jorgen, this young man who had an American father but they didn't want him to know about it, or that Malka Rosenbaum from Toronto, who had a sister that they did not want her to know about it, that these people have a chance to grow without all this terrible suffering and terrible choices that these parents had to make, that they will basically protect them. But what we learn is that as the years and decades go by, these are big secrets. That Jorgen's father is not his father. That's a big secret. Malka was an only child and found it difficult to be an only child, discovered she had a sister. That's a very big secret. That these secrets cannot be kept secret throughout a whole lifetime. They do filter back. And that even though it's 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years later, they have tremendous impact because it sort of makes a plot point in the people's lives that carry on. So basically the premise of the parents is that, I'm trying to protect them. But in some ways, while the intentions are good, they're also harming them because they have to come to some sort of new refocus on their lives years later because of what the parents do. And I guess what the film really is trying to do is saying, there is an anger and there is a distrust when Jorgen and Malka find out that they had a sister and a different father. And then they have to go through a whole search to get to some sort of closure, to some sort of understanding why their parents did that. So, and they both sort of say, well, we understand why they do it, but, knowing the truth, as hard as it can sometimes be a lot easier and to go on with life than not knowing the truth and discovering it later.
Martin Himel, what was the reaction of the two main people in this film after they saw the final product and went through this amazing kind of sad journey to actually come to some kind of a closure? Not necessarily the best kind of closure, but at least a closure.
I think the very fact that the film enables them to come to a closure is probably the best present for them and what they find the most valuable for them. That by going through this experience, not that I intended it to be that way, because I had no way of planning this, but by going through this experience, by doing the film, and coming to closure, to some sort of closure. Malka, while it was very difficult for her to discover this secret later in life, does understand somewhere that their parents did all this, kept this away from her, not to harm her, and not to hide the truth from her, but really to protect her. And while it was a difficult experience, she understands her parents a lot better after that. And Jorgen, I think, understands that the fact that he was shielded from so many decades from a father that really loved him and wanted him, and that he never knew about, an American soldier, while he still, he retains a certain amount of anger and hurt. His mother's still alive, so there's still a person to engage with. While he does retain that, he does understand her somewhere, that she was protecting him, because when Jorgen was growing up in immediate post-war Germany, as much as people think, the West Germans and the Americans became allies, that process took almost 20 years. There was a good 15 years where the Germans felt still the Americans, the British, were the enemy and defeated them and occupied them. It took a long time. And Jorgen, being a product of an American soldier, would have suffered horribly as a child. And so while he really deeply resents that secret was kept from him, and that so many years where he could have known his father, so many decades were robbed from him, he does understand somewhere that his mother was trying to protect him. So that getting those kind of closures, I think, are things that are very, very important to them. In that sense, doing the film was invaluable for them.
Martin Himel, a very interesting and emotional film. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.